You are listening to the Business Leadership Podcast with Edwin Frondozo.
Hello, I'm Paul Newton, creative producer of the Future Narrator miniseries, and I'm joined by Edwin Frondozo, host of the Business Leadership Podcast. We're recording live here at Web Summit Vancouver 2025. We're exploring how today's leaders shape the future, not just through strategy, but through story. We believe that a strong point of view is what shapes communities, builds movements, and cuts through the noise in uncertain times. So let's dive into this conversation. Today's guest is a true connector at the heart of global tech and startup culture. Casey Lau is the co-host of Web Summit, the world-renowned tech conference series, often called the Olympics of Tech. An entrepreneur, community builder, and creative strategist, Casey co-founded Asia's first e-commerce startup, ActionAce.com, and helped ignite startup ecosystems through Startups HK, HKG DAO, and YBeat.
Welcome to the Business Leadership Podcast, Casey. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited that Web Summit Vancouver. We're sitting here in Vancouver. I just want to jump right in and just tell me about your role with Web Summit Vancouver, and perhaps maybe if you could focus on the problem that you're trying to solve when it comes to bringing that here, when it comes to either digital entertainment, creative technology, Web3, or even just the ecosystem.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a great first question. So basically, I started with Web Summit as just a co-host, right? So I was based out in Hong Kong, and Patty Cosgrave, the CEO and founder of Web Summit, came out to Hong Kong and decided that would be the destination for his Asia conference. And it was called Rise.
Mm-hmm.
And I met him at a dinner, which is what Web Summit is very famous for doing, putting on these very, very small dinners with very, very select people. And I met Patty, and we hit it off. And then he asked me, do you want to be involved as a co-host of the conference? I said, sure. I actually have never been to Web Summit, so I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
I looked it online, and was like, okay, it's another tech conference. This is the number one challenge we always have, is just another tech conference until you get here and you notice it's not another tech conference.
Right.
I don't know any other tech conferences that have a press conference room set up like this, right? So, and from there, I've kind of evolved my role over time. I still co-host all the events. So I do it in Portugal, I do it in Qatar, I do it in Brazil, and here in North America in Vancouver. And hopefully next year we'll have a new Asia event. Yep, a new city, a new host city. And then at the same time, I'm also based out of Hong Kong right now, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Asia Pacific. And what does that mean? It means I do a lot of work running with the startups, investors, speakers in Asia, helping them bring them to the other conferences, as well as looking for the host city and working with different governments and different ecosystems on how to bring a Web Summit to that city.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And he's not a busy guy, Casey.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of travel around, but it's very exciting, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, living in Asia has been a very exciting time.
Yeah.
I know I left Vancouver over 20 years ago, and I've been in Hong Kong, and I've been able to look at Japan, Korea, Singapore, China. It's just fantastic time there. So, while I love Vancouver, and I love coming back for this event, and I do see my future in Asia for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Do you still have family here, Casey?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a nice homecoming for sure.
It's the best city to come back to after the hustle and bustle of like a Shanghai or a Tokyo. Come back here and it's really relaxing. But no, we're here now and we're going to talk about it. There's a lot of excitement in Vancouver. I think a lot of new businesses are starting here. So Vancouver's shaking itself up and getting more and more active on the global stage.
Vancouver is a special place, not only personally for you, when it comes to the ecosystem and given your experience when it comes from your own startup, what you're doing out in Asia, and what you're bringing now to Vancouver, what now within your experience, your unique point of view will help you really merge all of these worlds together and really make whatever goal or success that you were hoping?
Okay, so I guess I have a little bit more skin in the game of Vancouver, right? It's my hometown. You know, I've been out for more than 20 years. I come back every summer, and I always wanted to get more involved in the ecosystem, but didn't see anything really happening, right? During the pandemic, it seemed to really start to energize. A lot of the startups got a lot of funding, and Vancouver Tech Journal was a great catalyst for letting people know what was happening here. That's why I've got William Johnson, the founder, to come and be my co-host of this event, just because of the way he's so integrated into the ecosystem here. And I love ecosystem builders. I feel like people that build an ecosystem go above and beyond just a 9 to 5. They're like a passion. I see him in the lounge here talking to all the startups in the same color t-shirts. I'm like, this guy is working all the angles here. So it's great to see. But for me, just making sure that Vancouver has an opportunity now to be part of the global network of Web Summit, right? So now Vancouver is not just It's like Wakanda, In the movie, Wakanda is like this closed
I love
place,
that.
and then it opened up, and everybody came in, and then they started helping the Avengers and things like that. That's what I feel is going to happen now. So Vancouver will now be part of Europe through Portugal, will be part of the Middle East through Qatar, and then we'll be part of Asia through that next event, as well as Latin America, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot more things. So startups in Vancouver can start to really look global, not just to Toronto or not just to Calgary or whatever, or not even just to San Francisco. They're looking globally now, and that would be the biggest thing. Because another big thing is those countries I mentioned before, they're very local countries, so there's enough people to satisfy their own world. So like, as for instance, in Portugal, there's a lot of Portuguese in Portugal and Lisbon. But in Vancouver, when I tell people there's going to be 100 countries coming to Vancouver, and I look around the rooms, there's like 100 different countries already in the room, right? Yeah. So it's so multicultural here that people are coming here, and I want to make sure that they're also able to extend out to places maybe they haven't gone to before, and vice versa.
Yeah, and what's interesting when it comes to these tech conferences, and I am based in Toronto, I'm born and raised in Toronto, and similar in the sense of looking around the room in these ecosystem builders. And one thing I just want to recognize for the ecosystem builders, that is a passion. Yeah. That's work of passion. And those people are very important because they empower what's happening. Right. They make connections. And so when I look at what you're saying and what you're bringing in, it just me shivers, and it allows to really, we had the opportunity to sit down with Jack Newton from Clio. It's just like to showcase. Jack is known, but now it's just like, oh, wait, he's not an American company. Yeah. He's actually from Vancouver, and he's doing big things, and he's not the only one here.
He's not the only one, exactly.
So it's really interesting. So when it comes to what's happening, you're allowing Vancouver, empowering Vancouver, the startups entrepreneurs to really connect all around the world. Like what's the vision that you're hoping for, and the impact that bringing Web Summit here for them and for the region, really?
Yeah. I think, okay, this is a great question. This is the main question that everybody's asking, especially people in Canada. Why is it in Vancouver? What do you expect to get out of it? I feel like Vancouver has a lot of amazing things happening here that nobody knows about. Vancouver Tech Journal can only reach so far, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a BBC, it's not a CNBC, it's not anything like that. There's no real, and as you know from being in Toronto, or I don't know if you do know this, but Toronto is like the center of Canada, right? So like Vancouver, Calgary, everybody else doesn't get a lot of play because of that center, right? So a lot of people think, well, if I'm going to do it, I got to go to Toronto. I have no choice. And then Toronto gets this giant thing. So just making the spotlight shine on Vancouver and see what's happening here. But Canada in general is also like this too, right? When we did in Toronto, nobody knew Shopify was from Toronto.
Oh, exactly.
Until you get there and you're like, oh, the Shopify logos are on these buildings. They must be from here, right? Yeah. And every other person I met worked at Shopify, right? But Vancouver has a massive video game industry. I went to Industrial Light's Magic tour on Monday of this week. They are the company that George Lucas created to make the special effects for Star Wars 50 years ago. It's from San Francisco, right? That's where it's built. Come Lucasfilm and all that stuff happens. But ILM has grown so big, they've now opened an office in Vancouver 12 years ago, okay? So I didn't even know it was here either until I went to their office, and they have 1,000 people in their company, in the office, not remote. They're in the office.
That's crazy.
And nobody knows this. Yeah. And it's the biggest ILM office in the world. Okay, I'm picking this one because I'm a big Star Wars fan, a big Disney. And so because they purchased from Disney, they do all the special effects for Marvel and Star Wars. So they worked on the Thunderbolts that just came out recently. They're working on Superman, and not even non-Disney movies. So they do a lot of special effects here. And we went into they have a room just like this size, but it's like a movie theater just to watch the dailies and the special effects in the shot so they can like make notes and stuff like that. But they showed us this amazing 5-minute sizzle reel of the last 50 years of all the movies, and every movie Jurassic Park, all the Star Wars, all the Spider-Man movies, all of them done here. They're done here. As well as Microsoft is here. Also, the other big animation company is here is Sony ImageWorks. So all the Spider-Verse movies are made here, and they're made over on Robson Street, which is the main shopping street because that's where their office is. So there's a lot of this stuff happening here. Plus, like you mentioned, Clio, there's Trulio, there's Layer Zero, there's all these, there's a lot of O's in a lot of these companies, right? The Dapper Labs are going to be speaking tomorrow, right? These are all billion-dollar companies, all out of Vancouver. And that's the thing, right? If you don't come here, you don't know, right? Just like going to Toronto, you don't know. So I feel like just having that spotlight. And then the other half of the equation is, I'm sure you've been over to the Speaker's Lounge, right? That beautiful backdrop of downtown Vancouver or the North Vancouver. And people come in who've never been here before, and they're like, I didn't know this. I didn't know Vancouver looks like this. You see it on TV every day, right? You can actually watch Deadpool, and then he's driving around downtown, but you don't know it's that because they don't say it's Vancouver. It's some other mystical, magical American city, right? But it has a lot to offer here, and I hope that when people come in, they see that there's much more here to offer than they knew. And that's because America, mostly Americans are like that. They're like, well, America, we think it's in America.
Yeah.
But whenever you watch a movie, right? I don't know if you guys I always stay at the end for the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
At the end, there's always something, British Columbia, Canada. I'm like, what? Is this made in Canada? Because it looks like it's an American film.
Yeah.
But it's some part of it is done here in the province.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. So that's something I want everybody to see. And I think it's very exciting. And it'll bring a lot more interest here than you've ever seen before.
What you mentioned is a challenge, not only for Vancouver, also for Toronto, I find as well. And this is it could be a Canadian problem.
It is a Canadian
We're
problem.
too nice.
Yeah,
we're too humble
Mhm.
to beat our own drums.
Exactly right.
But having Web Summit, Collision before in Toronto really spur up the ecosystem. But when Collision moved and changed to Web Summit Vancouver, I was happy it went to Vancouver versus losing it to another country.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you said
because
that.
I'm from Toronto. I was at Collision.
Yeah.
I know Sunil. Well, it's amazing. And the last time I was here, I ran the half marathon. And just like you said, I wouldn't know how beautiful Vancouver is unless I was running the streets, seeing here. I just stayed down the street in Cole Harbor. So it's great. One thing I want to bring up, in terms of you are a co-host now of this Vancouver, what do you think makes you special in terms of being that person, the face of alongside Patty, alongside Webs, and also relearning the beauty of Vancouver and how innovative it is?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I don't know. I'm nothing special on the whole thing. I just that first rise in Hong Kong. Patty and I, he showed me the floor. We walked the show floor the night before we opened, and I was just blown away. I've never seen anything like this. I put on conferences, but they were very tiny, like 300 people. I was already, wow, there's 500 people coming to these things. That was huge. Well, what's next? And that's it. It can't get any bigger than this. And I think that first rise was probably around 10,000 people, that first one, right? And it's the first kind of super major conference, international conference for tech startups that came to Hong Kong, right? And I was just so shocked by it. And then I went to the Dublin one, the original one, later that year. And that was even bigger, right? And I was like, okay, this guy has created something really special. The team has really put together something special and amazing. And that's why when I go out and hype up the event, I know when I get here, I didn't see any of this before it got built. Because the production team does their own thing. And I know it's going to be amazing. I know it's going to be incredible. And it always is. Everybody is so on their game that I feel very, very privileged to be part of this team and to be promoting it and talk to people about it, because a lot of people will say, yeah, this is great. If they hear Web Summit, they know what it is, right? But if they haven't heard Web Summit, they don't know what it is. Then I'm able to say, you should come and check it out. And nobody's ever really that disappointed. They're like, wow, this is crazy, right?
It's amazing.
So yeah, that's basically it. But why am I special? I don't know. I like to rally people together. I feel like William Johnson, I see a kindred spirit there. We go above and beyond because we're interested in it. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not that we're interested in helping people. We're interested in helping these young people's ideas. I was a founder as well. I've went through the whole thing. I've raised money. I sold the company, things like that. But hearing and seeing the new people coming up with new ideas, I was doing e-commerce. This is like when Amazon, we were selling books and, it's nothing that fancy. It's not even on the phone yet, right? So seeing the phone sales and stuff like that, like Shopify, all that stuff, YouTube build out, these are things that we needed when we were building back then. But seeing it now, it's just fantastic. So now it's AI, it's quantum, it's all these crazy things. So just being part of that conversation, I think it's fantastic.
And what is it about you that just makes you care of keep on bringing this to new cities and bring it to more people?
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know about what the reason is behind that. I just think that the event is so great that I feel like the economic impact in the city is also a big deal. The cities I'm looking at in Asia now, I see greatness, but it's like Vancouver. They've got all these great natural resources. They've got great people, but they just don't know how to take it to the next level because they're so inside themselves, just like Canada. So it's a Canadian problem, but it's a problem everywhere outside of the U.S. The U.S., when you come into the U.S., I think they train you how to be very open and very loud about what you're doing, right? And very great. It's about being great. Everybody has to out-one the next person, right? No matter what country you're from, you immigrate to the U.S., you have to beat the next guy. If they both came from, Ukraine, then the one guy's got to up the other Ukrainian, right? Even though they're in America. And they go back and hopefully they teach that kind of stuff. But even though you met those founders here, none of them are like that here, though. The Vancouver founders are not that boisterous or they're so down to earth. They're so nice. And I was thinking, you don't have to be like that. Good stuff will come to these people who are doing great things. And so look at this. And then Web Summit is here because we found all these great founders who are so open to sharing why it makes great, because they've told us a lot of what happened here, what they're doing, how the ecosystem is great, what it's missing, what it needs, or what it already has. And so we're able to amplify that.
Yeah. And so whether you're amplifying a founder or an entire region or a city, I mean, there's something really special about doing that. And again, I just, Why do you excel there? What really helps you?
I don't know. I feel like I have a good product behind me. That's
Yeah.
one of the main things. I think that I'm very confident about that. And I can see in different ecosystems, like what is missing, like what they're having struggles with. And if they are open enough to understand that, yes, they need help from something like this, then it's easier to work together, right? That's all I can think about, right?
Yeah.
In terms of that. But I always can see like it's either corporations that want to be involved or just the startups in general. There's always something around that works together to make these things happen.
Well, I mean, clearly you're doing something that's working, and you have a unique perspective.
Yeah.
It's just something we want to really nail on. But here, I'll pass it back to Ed.
The last thing I want to talk about when it comes to Web Summit in the region, and really, I wish people heard it first, what's happening in Asia, but, when you understand and you're backed by this amazing enabler called Web Summit, and it could bring a massive economic development into the region. Look what happened to Lisbon. Look what happened to Toronto. It's coming here to Vancouver. What do you see, and maybe the past events you could really see it, but like, what are you excited for, really, when it comes to Vancouver?
For Vancouver specifically? No, really, honestly, it's just going to be this momentum of new companies coming out. Like, okay, so tonight we're doing the semi-final competitions. So that's 10 startups that have come down from 100 that pitched yesterday and this morning. So will one of those tomorrow win it? Or these 10 will shrink down to 3, and one of them becomes the winner of that. Will one of these be from Vancouver? And then will we see them next year? Will they have raised a lot more money? Will they be bigger? Will they be hiring more people, expanding offices? How will Web Summit have contributed to that journey for them? I think that's very exciting to see. That's the kind of things that we track. And also we track internally. We track all the startups that have exhibited here. So there's 1,100 startups here. We track them to see if they've met anybody here. They help them raise money, or met any partners from here. They help them give them clients and give them revenue, things like that. So it's a whole journey that we are part of these startups that are going on. That's the main point, right? The startups is the main. Anything else you see is just extra sizzle and dazzle, right? But the startups and how they're going up is the most important part.
Yeah, I mean, it's so like just hearing you talk about this, Casey, it's just not only understanding that you are an entrepreneur, you're an ecosystem builder. Now you're like, you mentioned, I could look into ecosystems, I could see what's missing. Whether Web Summit or came, you could understand what might be the solution to elevate it. And it could be incremental.
Yeah, exactly.
But you also know, like, there could be a massive shift. And choosing, like, this must be a difficult thing if you're part of the steering committee. Like, when you're thinking about and looking, now you're doing this for Asia, aside from, and I'm not sure, you could tell us right or wrong, were you part of it to help choose Vancouver? And now are you helping, like, what do you and the team look for when you decide where to go?
Vancouver specifically?
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm glad we kept it in Canada.
Yes.
So the federal government that was a partner with us in Collision said, we'd like to keep it here, but they don't know where or how to do it. So next thing is, okay, who would be a next best place? Luckily, I'm from Canada. Yeah. When we announced Collision in Toronto, I was like, why is it in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
But then I would say, yeah, if I went to, I hadn't been to Toronto recently at that point, so I don't know how big it was. And so it's a massive city, and it's definitely the thriving pulse of tech in Canada, 100%. I'm not going to argue that. But then as the next 4 or 5 years came through, I think Vancouver started to catch up, right? Just as I see Calgary catching up. I was just recently there, and I was like, there's a lot of stuff going on there, and I was surprised at that as well. So I think Canada as a whole is starting to compete against each other, right? Which is great. If there's money in those provinces, there's going to be an attraction to go there and raise it or get access to it and the resources that are there, right? So for Vancouver, of course, since I'm from Vancouver, I have more connections here. So I was able to kind of push it here. And then hopefully, but it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if I push it or whatever. It still has to be the province, and the city has to get behind it. And so we did find champions here that were also on it. And that's another thing. You never know, right? It could have gone to Montreal. It could have gone to somewhere else. But it happened to be that the Minister of JEDI, the Jobs and Economic Innovation, she was a founder. She started a game, Brenda Bailey. She started a game studio, so she's a founder. So she knew what the tech side was. So she fought for it, and she had a budget. And then, of course, the mayor of Vancouver, Ken Sim, he's also an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So they understand this. I mean, you cannot do this without people who are on the same page.
And
the challenges, and also understand how much can bring to the city. So that's why everything just kind of fell into line. And then the last piece was Patty. He came here 1 year ago and then we had a beautiful day like today, and he got on the seaplanes and all that stuff. He's like, we're going to do it here. So,
I love that.
So it's all the pieces, right? It's not just one piece. No matter how great the ecosystem is, there's tons of ecosystems. We get tons of bids for people to come in and want to Web Summit in their city. But you need all the pieces.
Yeah.
You don't just need hotels. You need international airport. You need all these logistics as well. So there's a lot of things to look at besides just that. So Vancouver, has the whole piece, right? And so we're able to move it forward.
No, and that's amazing. So thank you. Really grateful for that. I'd love it if you could share any final thoughts, advice, recommendations. And Casey, because given the fact that not only you're an entrepreneur, we're building, we're connecting, innovation, entrepreneurs with investors, and just ecosystems. Like, what comes to mind when it comes to a final thought that you'd like to share to, the founders, CEOs, or even business leaders who are listening today?
I think, I say this to everybody, even the people in Lisbon, if it's big, or any other country we do stuff in, is start to look at the world, right? If you could, like our conference, great. There's another one coming up in a few months, and then after that, there's another one. Go outside your comfort zone, take a look at what other people are building, and just really explore it. Because that's another thing. I see a lot of founders, they're in Vancouver, their heads are in Vancouver, and they're building something that already exists in 3 other countries.
Right.
That's already going to kill them as soon as they try to go outside. So you should have your head up and take a look. And the best way to do that is get on a plane, get to a conference. Doesn't have to be Web Summit, but go out there and see what other people are building. Start networking with people. That's another thing about this event that I think is fantastic. We don't mind to cannibalize the stage audience to make sure they're outside or in the hallway, meeting each other, connecting.
That's the best.
This is the main point of Web Summit that a lot of conferences don't believe in.
Yeah.
They think that, put some famous people on stage and I've done my job. That is the least important thing, to be honest. Is this public? Yeah, okay. Anyways, the speakers know they're there to send a message out to people, but it's also about the attendees having a great experience. And that's what Patty always tells us. Make sure that the attendees have a great experience because they are going to come back next year and they're going to bring a couple friends with them, right? Or they're going to recommend it to other people, right? You always remember the people you met. Like I'll remember meeting you guys more than I'll remember watching a talk, with the next AI thing, which will probably be out of date by this time next year, right? But you guys will still be doing this and you guys are going to be a network for me going forward, right?
It's amazing, Casey. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yep. Thank you for joining us on the Business Leadership Podcast.
Great.
You are listening to the Business Leadership Podcast with Edwin Frondozo.